I know a lot of people that want to succeed. They want to have a business. They want to be able to brag about their successes, but they don't put in the hard work. They don't put in the time. They're not, educating themselves. So anytime someone is listening to content, it's to level up their game. And I think that even if they have very little skill set, even if they're not the smartest person in the room, just like myself, they can outwork everybody. And
Mm.
just the fact that they're here listening and they're here trying to educate themselves, they should be commended and they should be applauded. And, they should understand what a big deal that is, because most people don't do that. Most people don't put in the hard work and the dedication. So if you're still listening to this, congrats to you. Don't stop. Keep finding every opportunity you can to learn and to level up and to gain experience, because that's the only way that you're going to succeed. And you're obviously doing it right now and putting in the hard work. So kudos to you.
Welcome to a new episode of the Dev Device Podcast. And today I'm very lucky to have Mr. Tim Jordan with me. Welcome, Tim.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's not easy to catch you, man. You are you're a very busy guy. Is that right?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time on an airplane, and sometimes it's last minute. So I just got back
Mm,
from China about 6 hours ago. So if I fall
wow.
asleep during this recording, just forgive me. But uh, I've had 3 cups of coffee, so I should be okay.
Yeah. I hope you have another one as a backup in case you fall asleep. But yeah, I mean, I understand you are traveling around, you're speaking, you are on a lot of podcasts, and you're on so and you are the CCO at Carbon6. Is that right? So yeah. So I mean, for those maybe two people who are not familiar with Carbon6, maybe you just let us know what's happening there.
Yeah, Carbon 6, the idea was that there were a lot of software tools and a lot of solutions that sellers needed and sellers were using, but we had too many tabs open on our browser, right? We had all these different solutions that weren't talking to each other, they weren't communicating with each other. So we have purchased 18 different solutions in the e-commerce space and connecting them, right? Some to
Wow.
lesser degrees or more degrees, but creating a cohesive platform, a cohesive solution where all these things are kind of mixed into one, which makes selling easier.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had a podcast with your colleague, Mr. Justin Cobb, just a few weeks ago, and he told me the story of watching his friend having 60 tabs open on his laptop, and the idea that came to his mind was like, why don't we close all these tabs and like merge them into one? And that's exactly what you guys doing, right? So you're bringing
Yep.
all the seller tools into one platform and making it so much easier for Amazon sellers to manage their accounts. And yeah, so that's quite amazing. And I mean, everybody in the Amazon space knows Carbon6, so it's not really necessary to introduce. You are really famous guys, and but today, this podcast is about Tim Jordan and his life story. So since you came to this place where you are today, which seems pretty amazing from my perspective, I'm really curious to hear, how did you get there? So how did 10-year-old Tim become the Tim he is today? So that is kind of the backstory of my podcast. And I would like to invite you to share, like, what was it like to be 10 years old for Tim?
It was very different than a lot of other childhoods, right? I was moving around a lot. I grew up in kind of a rough situation, some poverty, and I hate to say that because there are so many people in other parts of the world that their level of poverty is different, but pretty unstable situation, and did not know what I was going to be when I grew up. I didn't really have a plan, but I remember looking back now some signs of entrepreneurism. There was a this crazy idea I had when I was, I think, 10 or 11 years old, to sell flavored toothpicks, because you can buy oil at the grocery store, flavored oil like cinnamon oil. And I would dip these toothpicks in it and put them in Ziploc bags and had flavored toothpicks that I would sell to the kids at school. And I got in trouble for that. And then the marching band at my school would have fundraisers where they would sell candy bars. So they would sell a king size, large candy bar for $1. Well, I figured out that my parents could buy these same candy bars at Sam's Club for 50 cents. So I got one of the boxes. It looked like a cardboard briefcase from one of these band members that was empty. And I had my dad drive me to Sam's Club and buy me a bunch of candy bars. And I walked around school for like 4 months pretending I was in the band, which I was not, and selling these candy bars, which was supposed to be for a fundraiser, which wasn't. The money was going in my pocket, or I was eating all the proceeds. I had a lot of candy bars for those 3 or 4 months. So I think that without knowing that I was going to get into business, I think that there were some hints early on, and I always tried to outwork everybody. You know, I was never, I don't think, any smarter or any more skilled than most people around me. But when I was 14 years old, I had a couple jobs, stocking coolers at gas stations or doing odds and ends on the weekends, yard work for people. And I think that you know, looking back through my childhood, I think that one of the reasons that I was able to learn the things that I did and maybe have the opportunities I did was I never said no to anything. If there was a job, if there was an opportunity, I said yes to it and I did it. I was a pretty good athlete in high school, and even as a full-time athlete playing multiple sports, I was working 2 part-time jobs. Right. So I think that maybe, you know, the reason for that is unknown, the drive behind that is unknown, but that work ethic that I had has definitely stretched into a situation where, you know, I always said yes to every opportunity, which is a problem, by the way. You can't say yes to everything, but it gave me a lot of unique experiences, which allowed me to maybe open up my mind and open up my brain to other opportunities that I never would have expected to have.
Oh yeah. Yeah, being a yes man is definitely a philosophy, and I think there's even a movie about that.
Yep.
But it does come with some problems, yeah. So the yes men tend to get very busy and maybe sometimes overwhelmed. Yeah, I can see some common ground. Like with most of the entrepreneurs I talked to, they all had this background of like moving around and starting early and taking like dealing some kind of cards, or I mean the toothpicks is a new one, but like selling stuff like as a teenager is seems to be like a common thing amongst entrepreneurs who then grow into somebody like yourself. You did your toothpick business and many other things. And what happened after you finished high school? So what was the next step? Did you decide to go to college, or what was the next,
Yeah, I
next
went to
step?
college and decided I wanted to move far away. I wanted to get away from my family, wanted to, I don't know, kind of experience some freedom. I had seen too many, you know, fellow students that had stuck around home too long, and not saying that's wrong, but I wanted to jump in and gain some maturity. So I went to college as a business major and didn't do particularly great in college. I was too distracted and working too many jobs. I had to pay for everything myself. Even took a semester off in the middle of college just to work like 3 jobs and try to get caught up on finances and pay for school.
Wow.
But when I was in college, there was a unique opportunity to work for the small fire department in the city that my college was in. And the way fire departments work is the better the fire department is, the lower the insurance rates on your buildings are. And I was in a very small town that typically would have a volunteer fire department. Well, the city decided that they needed to increase the, you know, level and proficiency of the fire service there to decrease the building's insurance rates. So they had a couple officers that were full time, and they decided they wanted to recruit some of these college kids to start working with the fire department as a volunteer, but as a paid volunteer. So they opened up a program where they took about 15 of us, you know, college guys that just wanted an adventure. And one summer they sent us to the fire academy in Tennessee for a very abbreviated version. It was not like a full fire academy experience. And once we finished that, then we could be on call. So if we were in our dormitories and our classrooms and our pager went off, there's a call, we could run out and do that. And they would pay us $50 for every call.
Wow.
And this became a little business for us because sometimes we would get people to set the alarms off, like in the other dorms. I was dating, she's now my wife, but I was dating her. And I remember one night we were sitting around and she texted me. She said, how do you feel about having a fire call? I said, perfect. And her roommate burned the popcorn in their microwave and set the fire alarm off. So we got to go to this call. And, you know, every month we'd get paid a little bit. So, you know, I'd take her on a nicer date. It was kind of a scam. But eventually the city decided, hey, we want to increase our fire protection rating even more. and they built a small apartment onto the fire station in town. And they allowed 6 of us to move in. They selected 6 of us. And this was great because it became free lodging for me. I didn't have to pay for the dorms anymore. And they gave us a food stipend. They didn't pay us a salary or anything, but they gave us free room and board. And every time we were there, we were officially clocked in. So if you're living there and if you're there between classes and if you're just hanging out there because it's where you live, it was showing on the records as if we were full-time employees. Right. Well, of course, this was great for the city because now we have multiple quote unquote full-time firemen, which allowed them to increase their fire protection rating and decrease the cost of building insurance. So it was an adventure for me. It helped me make a little bit of money, maybe $1,000 a month or something like this. It decreased my costs, but I remember speaking to my dad about it, and he said, "Well, I'm glad you're having your adventure, but I know that you'll never work public service full time. It's a terrible job. You don't want to work public service." And I remember thinking, okay, I have no intention of doing this full time. So I left college and I moved down to Alabama, and I was working some odds and ends jobs trying to find a place to kind of land. And every time a fire truck would drive by, it would get me excited. And I'd look at it, and I'd think, man, I wish, because this was like a real city fire department. It wasn't this kind of scammy fake one. So after about a year and a half of some management positions, some local business, I decided that I want to try for the fire department. And there were 2,500 applicants that year, and they were only hiring 25 people. And somehow I was selected. So after a 6-month process of testing and interviews, I got selected, and I joined a real fire department, went to the fire academy and EMT school for about 6 months, and was a real fireman now. And I thought I was going to do that. I thought that was going to be my career. And when you work as a firefighter, in most places, you have an odd schedule. You might work 24 hours at a time, and then you're off for 48 hours. So because of that schedule, we essentially worked 2 days a week. Most firemen had side businesses, whether it's a part-time job or something. So I had a landscaping business, and I built that into a masonry business, then to a construction business. I had, part-time job at one point with like 30 employees, which was crazy, to have that much responsibility while I was not even in the office or at the shop full time. And that was a big failure. It taught me a lot, but I was like 25 years old trying to run this large business, and I could sell well. I just didn't know how to manage, and I didn't know operations and didn't know how to run a business. So I got involved in some other things and was working as a procurement agent for the U.S. government for a while. And all of that eventually led to a situation where I realized, hey, I should be selling things online. And I
When
didn't
was
know
that? What year was that?
That was 2014.
Oh,
Yeah. And I did not know you could even sell on Amazon, but I had access to wholesale prices on products for the government, these government contracts. And I would look online and see that, this $30 item on Amazon I could get for $3 or $4. I thought, wow, there must be some profit here, but I didn't know you could sell on Amazon. So I actually put up an ad on Craigslist for someone to teach me how to sell on eBay. And this guy answers my ad. He comes over to my office at the time and meets with me and looks at my list and said, "You need to sell on Amazon." I had no idea you could do that. So I became a wholesaler on Amazon, and kind of the rest was history. I did that for about a year, very successfully, before I started launching my own products and, going through that process of making a lot of mistakes, but learning and, kind of became proficient at the whole private label game, but completely by accident.
Wow. Well, there's something we have in common here, because 2014 was exactly the year when I started my private label business. And it was the same thing for me. So I went to a conference and I realized, and there was a guy speaking about selling on Amazon. I was like, what? Like everybody can sell on Amazon? I had no idea. Just like you, I thought Amazon, I heard of it, but being in Malaysia at that time was not exactly like my vicinity. But yeah, looks like there's something we did at the same time in the same way. So start selling on Amazon, wholesales first, and then you build your private label brand. And I expect you have sold it, or you still have it.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of private label brands. Some of them were just, I don't know, commodity type products that I may have made some money and then, it got too saturated and I dropped out of. I had a couple brands that I was able to exit. One of them or a couple of them very poorly. I didn't handle the exit very well. This is before the age of the aggregator, and I guess
Mm,
2018, early 2019. And then I've had a couple that I exited well. I've still got two right now that I'm actively running. I started them in about 2020 after I exited two others. And,
mm,
I don't get to spend all of my time on it. I'm so busy with other things, but they're
mm,
steadily growing and doing well. And it gives me an opportunity to keep learning and implement some of the things that I'm learning from all these other experts.
mm,
So yeah, I guess you could say that I've got a lot of varied experience in the private label game with lots of different categories. One of the
mm.
ones I like to talk about is women's shoe accessories, and I've never
Yeah.
worn a women's shoe, but
No?
yeah, shocking, I know, but
Yeah, that's
learning,
surprising.
I know it shocks everybody, but understanding, that we don't sell products, we sell keywords, allow me to
Yeah.
get into this mindset where I could find keyword opportunities and then backfill it with a product and started doing pretty well.
Mm. Women's shoes. So
I
you're
know.
still doing that? You're still doing the women's shoe thing?
Nope, that one I was
No,
able to
no.
exit.
And that one, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I sold my private label business in 2019, but I only had one, so I was not as diverse as you are. So you had several of them, and you're still running some of them. But yeah, I mean, I understand like why you are the go-to guy and why everybody wants you to speak on their on conferences and hear what you have to say about selling on Amazon and e-commerce. It sounds like you have done the whole thing and you have learned a lot of stuff and you talk, to all the big boys all the time, which of course raises the question like, what would be your best piece of advice right now for someone who wants to start an e-commerce business, or to become an entrepreneur even on a wider scope of things, which is my favorite question. Like if you had to give some advice to someone or to 10-year-old Tim how to become successful as an entrepreneur, what would that advice be?
Yeah, if someone's thinking maybe they're working a corporate job and they'd like to start their own business, my biggest piece of advice is to think big and fail fast.
Mm,
Right? Many times we have these limiting beliefs that we can't be successful or we can't make it work. There's just a lot of things that we think. So we hold ourselves back and we don't jump in and try. Now, I'm not saying you should destabilize your family or do anything reckless or put your personal finance or stability at risk. But if you got some money saved up and you can dabble in this, um, go for it. I know a lot of idiots that have succeeded, right? Like, but they succeeded because they went for it and they tried. And the thing that every successful entrepreneur I know has in common is that they've had failures. Those
mm,
failures are where you learn. Those failures are how you get experience. Most everything that I've done, I failed at, to some extent, but the failures that I had allowed me to learn, the valuable lessons that I needed and gain the experience and
mm,
wisdom from those so that I could keep going. My first
mm,
few private label products were giant failures, right? But
mm,
that taught me more than any course or any consultant could. I
mm,
was recently in Japan with a young lady who has been dabbling at the Amazon thing for a while, and she's struggling. And when we really broke down what she was doing, we realized that she's actually very good at what she does. She's very proficient. She's become educated. She's become experienced. She's taken in all this content and all this information. And, she's got a few things that she's exceptionally good at, I believe. But she might have been holding herself back a little bit because she was
mm,
timid, because she was scared. So
mm,
my first piece of advice for someone that is entrepreneurial or wants to get in the entrepreneurial world is, hey, you're just gonna have to dive in, like just slowly dabbling in it and seeing if something works out right the first time. It's not gonna work. You've got to learn those lessons. The other thing
mm,
is, if you are thinking about entrepreneurial, the world of digital marketing is massive and it's growing, and nobody can even imagine what it's going to turn into. So for any type of business that you're thinking about starting, make sure that you're proficient in digital marketing. If you want to become a real estate agent, many of the real estate agents in my local area are terrible digital marketers. The couple that are really good are absolutely crushing everybody because they understand the very basics. If you want to get into a service business, if you want to start an accounting firm or a consulting firm, master the digital marketing world. If you want to sell a product, master digital marketing. People used to go to the shopping mall and the brick and mortar stores And now they don't do that. The shopping mall window is their cell phone screen now, right? That's where you browse. And there are so many opportunities now because these big businesses haven't mastered it. Most of the traditional businesses in the world, they haven't mastered it. They're not thinking about it. And that gives an opportunity for those of us that are resilient and adventurous and daring to sneak in and master that. So for me, it just happened that I got into physical products, but it wasn't the physical product development that I was good at. Well, I was pretty good at it, but that's not what made me good in the whole thing. It was understanding digital marketing. I think that, if you want to narrow it down into digital marketing, I think that physical product sales are creating the biggest opportunity for entrepreneurism, and Amazon specifically is creating that opportunity. I was, like I said, just in China a couple days ago, talking to some factory owners, and only 10 years ago, these factory owners had to have an independent company come in and help them with product production. So this factory could produce certain things, but an independent company had to come in and tell them what are people looking for. And then when they produce these products, they had to find wholesalers. And these wholesalers or trading companies would buy their products and try to resell them somewhere to an individual or a company that would brand them. And then that company would try to sell them into a brick and mortar retail store. There's like 7 touch points. Now these factories don't need any of these touch points. They can use digital marketing. They can use polling platforms. They can do their own research and figure out what people want, and they can sell directly to the consumer, right? It cuts out 6 or 7 layers. So that has only happened in the last 10 years. And someone like myself, the same thing. Now I can sell anything to anyone, anywhere in the world with my cell phone or a laptop, right? That's never happened before. And that is changing fundamentally, thousands of years of commerce. For thousands of years, commerce has done the same way, and now it just flipped a switch. So people are behind, the big companies are behind, and anybody that's thinking about entrepreneurism, I would tell you to jump in, get a lot of experience by failing fast, and specifically look at product selling. And if you're thinking about selling a product, specifically look at Amazon, because all of those those hurdles, those moats, those pain points have essentially been eliminated, because now you have a platform that's already built. You don't have to build a warehouse. You don't have to build your own advertising platform. You don't have to build your own marketing pages. It's all there for you, right? So I think it's an interesting time, definitely, to be able to start your own business and create your own freedom.
Definitely. Yeah, and I love how you emphasize on digital marketing, and I completely agree. It is the magic sauce that every business needs these days, and I'm oftentimes surprised how much it's been ignored and how people just not really look at it. But yeah, that's a different story. But I fully agree with the marketing part and with this incredible opportunity that Amazon presents. If it wasn't for Amazon, what would be your second favorite marketplace to sell on?
That's tough. It would depend on the product that I was selling and maybe where I was located. I think that right now there are some interesting opportunities, for example, Walmart.com, where people are looking for products, let's say on Google, and Google is specifically, highlighting Walmart Marketplace, and these products just aren't on Walmart. I think that if I had a new invention, I would look at places like crowdfunding platforms, like Kickstarter. I think that if I were doing products of a specific type, maybe Etsy, it all depends. I think that if I had zero money to start with and I had zero product, I could do well as an affiliate marketer, learn digital marketing and start affiliate selling other products on other platforms from other people. There's a lot of affiliate marketing platforms where you can go and find products that people are wanting to sell. They don't know how to market it. You can be the marketing arm and take a commission on that. So hard to answer your question specifically because there's so many variables, but that's a great thing. If there's a lot of variables, then it also means there's a lot of options. There's not just one or two that we can select from.
Yeah. I mean, there's this TikTok thing. What is your opinion on TikTok? Is it going to last in the US? Is it going to go away?
I have a negative view on TikTok Shop.
Oh yeah,
and
interesting.
I think that it goes to fundamentally, the platform and what it is. If you think about the successful e-commerce platforms, they're essentially search engines. Okay, so you go in, you type something, and results show up, and those results should be related to what you type. But you're typing something with the intention to purchase. If you go to Amazon.com, you want to buy something. If you go to
Yeah.
Walmart.com, if you go to eBay, if you go to Google and type a specific product, it's probably because you want to buy it. A platform like TikTok does not have high buyer intent. You don't go to TikTok to buy something. You go to TikTok to be entertained. Now, on that entertainment platform, there's a huge opportunity to advertise, right? Just like when we watch the Super Bowl, on TV here in the US, everybody's advertising on it. But you don't watch the Super Bowl to see the advertisements. You watch the Super Bowl to watch the football game.
Yeah.
The advertisements you're forced to watch, right? Those intentional breaks. So I think that because TikTok is not a high buyer intent platform, it's an entertainment platform, that there will be a significant inability to become a mainstream platform for purchasing. Now, are people selling products on TikTok? Of course they are. But they're typically a impulse purchase, right? Whether it's a great deal or whether it's a specific category that works well with content-based sales, like let's say fashion or beauty or supplements or toys, right? But no one's going to go to TikTok shop to buy a car part or to buy paper towels or to buy dog food, right? Like if I'm going to buy something, I'm going to a marketplace. So I think that it's interesting. And again, some people are succeeding on it, making some money. But I think that generally speaking, I don't want to get distracted by it. We have a lot of messages constantly coming at us from the marketplaces themselves, from gurus and people that are selling courses, that this is the hot new thing. And we all want to make money. So it's easy to get distracted and think, hey, I need to run after these things. I need to chase these opportunities. But when I really think about my own bandwidth and my own opportunities and how much I can actually handle, I think that my time is better spent staying hyper focused on an actual marketplace, especially for my products, as opposed to getting completely distracted by these other things that may or may not work out.
Yeah, I fully agree. Yeah. Focus is
important.
Again, focus is one of the very important parts. And as you said earlier, the readiness to fail, which we can also translate into learning. John Loga, a guy that I'm following, he says we there's no failure, there's just success and learning. So if you kind of reframe the failure into learning, it becomes a bit easier to deal with it, and eventually that's what it is, right? I mean, we fail to find out what doesn't work, which ideally is a way to learn something and become smarter, and then to find the stuff that is working. And as you mentioned, the digital marketing is one of the things that should be on the table. But then again, there's the who not how question. So I still believe that we can also work with the guys who know how to do digital marketing without having to learn all the nitty-gritty. I mean, when you're a real estate agent, you might as well cooperate with a digital marketer to make that part of the business work without having to learn it all yourself. But it's definitely a bad idea to ignore it. Yeah, I fully agree on that one. Which is kind of also in my own interest because I run a digital marketing agency. So yeah, to promote the importance of it is kind of in my favor. Yeah.
Sure.
Cool, Tim. That was so interesting to hear from you and to eventually get a hold and hear your story and get you to share your wisdom. If there's anything else you would like to share with the audience, who I appreciate a lot, to all the guys who are still listening until now, is there anything else you would like to share with them as a parting word?
Well, I'd just like to pat them on the back and congratulate them because they're spending the time to learn. I know a lot of people that want to succeed. They want to have a business. They want to be able to brag about their successes, but they don't put in the hard work. They don't put in the time. They're not, educating themselves. So anytime someone is listening to content, it's to level up their game. And I think that even if they have very little skill set, even if they're not the smartest person in the room, just like myself, they can outwork everybody. And just the fact that they're here listening and they're here trying to educate themselves, they should be commended and they should be applauded. And, they should understand what a big deal that is because most people don't do that. Most people don't put in the hard work and the dedication. So if you're still listening to this, congrats to you. Don't stop. keep finding every opportunity you can to learn and to level up and to gain experience, because that's the only way that you're going to succeed. And you're obviously doing it right now and putting in the hard work. So kudos to you.
Oh, yeah, man. I couldn't have said that better. Fantastic. Tim, it was such a pleasure to talk to you. And I will make sure that any contact that you would like to share will be below this video. And yeah, I think everybody who has listened to this should be feel blessed. Thank you so much, man.
Yep. Thanks for having me.